I'm Sophie, and I currently live in South Carolina. I work in advertising at an agency called R&R Partners. Um, and I grew up in Wyomissing, Pennsylvania, tiny little town out on the East Coast. And growing up, Girl Scouts was a huge part of my life. Every Wednesday, we would meet in our elementary school cafeteria. And on one particular meeting that we had, we were all sitting there, and our troop leader was like, okay, we're going to bring in this guest. She's a singer, and she's going to move to Nashville, and she wants to share her music with the world, right? So we go in, and she brings out this musician, and it's this girl named.
Even great leaders get stuck. Others thrive. I'm Mark Cook, New York Times bestselling author, president of Windfall Partners. We get leaders unstuck and thriving with their teams. Clients upgrade leaders' retreats and conferences with my 5-star keynotes and breakouts on leaders' bold encounters. Also, leaders get weekly consulting as they execute key steps. Plus, brief check-ins guarantee results, live or via Zoom. After turnarounds as chief executive and 9 global studies of 2 million award-winning leaders, I've coached 4,000 client wins at top brands with my approach in over 50 cities worldwide. My Bold Encounters is an advanced system for leading. First, powerful steps on a path forward. Second, problem-solving skills that beat obstacles fast. Leaders create revenue breakthroughs and clients see new profits. Now let's lead with Bold Encounters today. Welcome to my Bold Encounters interviews. Today, I have another exceptional leader. Sophie Haws is a young leader at R&R Advertising, but today she's going to tell us a fascinating, very informative story as a customer, her life as a customer. How are you, Sophie?
Good. How are you, Mark? Thanks for having me on.
It's great to be with you again. I'm so grateful that you tell us this story. Before we go into the customer story we're going to talk about, I want to talk to you about your young life because you are in a great prime age, but you were once a young girl. And what we're going to talk about is being a customer initially as a young woman. And so I want to talk to you about some of your highs and lows of a few parts of your life. First, I wanted to talk about your grade school experience. I wanted to talk about the thoughts and feelings that were kind of private, maybe, about hard things and exciting and meaningful things. Just a few of the highs and lows from elementary school as a young woman. What did you experience in elementary school?
Yeah, wow, you're really throwing me back here. I mean, probably pretty typical for most elementary school girls. You're just trying to figure out who you are, figuring out friends. Obviously, school is a big part of your life at that time. Again, making friends and navigating that is a huge part of elementary school. Yeah, I mean, probably some of the more typical struggles, just trying to figure out life, still pretty young, looking forward to the future. But yeah, I pretty average, I would say.
Did you ever feel like you struggled to belong?
I think definitely at times, everybody probably goes through those phases of life. I feel like elementary school was a good time for me. I felt pretty confident, had lots of friends, was really involved. I'm sure I had my hard days, but for the most part, pretty smooth sailing through elementary, I would say.
Did you ever feel like towards the end, did you ever develop a crush on some other boy and feel that excitement?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think that that's a big part of elementary school too, is, you start to talk to boys, they start to tease you, but it's only because they like you. All of those kinds of things, and then discussing it with your friends, deciding who's allowed to, hang out with who and date who, and you're still in elementary school, but all that stuff is definitely creeping up. It's exciting. Yeah.
Did you ever did you ever bump into a teacher wrong during class or after or anything and get a little crosshairs of a teacher, so to speak? Ever?
Oh man. I mean, not that I can think of. I'm sure it happened, but um yeah, I don't know. Also, like elementary school is when the drama starts with friends too, and talking behind each other's backs or whatnot, all that kind of stuff. So I'm sure I experienced that, but man, you're making me think far back.
I'd love
Yeah.
you to tell us about an experience you had when you were a young woman uh, that really changed your social life.
Yeah. So, when I was younger, I was part of a Girl Scout troop. And this Girl Scout troop met after school, once or twice a week. We do our projects, get our patches, sell our cookies. Um, and there was one particular night where our troop leader said that she had this special guest. It was a high school student from our area, and um, she she had come up with some of her own songs, and she had this goal of wanting to become a musician. And so it was actually, so our troop leader, I was friends with her daughter, and it was her daughter's babysitter that was coming to perform for us and kind of just show us one of her talents, because that was part of being a Girl Scout, is developing your talents. And so she came in and introduced herself as Taylor Swift. And so we're sitting in this small group of our Girl Scout troop, maybe 10 girls and a couple leaders. And Taylor Swift, she starts playing these songs that she wrote and telling us how passionate she was about it. And she was this older girl, this high school girl that we thought was so pretty and so cool and so talented. Um, and she had these fun songs. So she actually gave us her demo CD, the one that she was going to take to Nashville to find a record label to sign. Um, so we all got these demo CDs that has like three of her very first original songs. Probably most people have never even heard them. So that was really fun. And I remember she took the time, she sat with us after, and we'd asked her questions. And I remember, I was like, hey, like, well, actually, she offered, I think she was just like, if anybody wants to reach out to me, like, I'll give you my email address and you can email me, because that was like a big thing back then. So I remember she wrote her email down on her demo CD. I think I still have like the original CD, which is kind of crazy. Um, but yeah, she made it a really personal experience, and she was this girl that we looked up to. So
So,
kind of crazy.
did she did she elaborate a little bit on her hopes and dreams and her vision for this talent and passion and making it big?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of funny. She actually was not popular at all in school when she was growing up. And she kind of talked about that with us. And most people know that Taylor Swift started out as a country artist. That was kind of her genre. And country was just like not cool at all. But that's what she loved. And so she was really passionate about it, and she wanted to become a musician. She wrote all her own song, played the guitar, like she was just so passionate about it, and she really did want to become a musician. In fact, I think it was like the next week after she had performed for us, just in that small little group, that she told us she was moving to Nashville because she wanted to become a famous musician.
So awesome.
Yeah.
She was changing the setting of her vision of the future and putting herself on a road to get there, it sounds like.
Yeah.
While she was with you, did she talk about boyfriends, crushes, school, and things like that?
I don't remember exactly her talking about those things, but even from those first three songs that she played us, I mean, it was clear what her music was about. It was about her life, her relationships. It was about boys being jerks, but her like fairy tale experiences that she had. Um, so yeah, I don't remember the specifics, but very clear from those songs what was part of her life and what she was going through.
Okay, see if you remember this. This will be hard too. But then there's this promotion to junior high or middle school, depending
Hmm.
on what they call it, where you were in
Yeah.
Pennsylvania. So tell me a little bit about that transition and some of the hard feelings, difficult feelings, and positive, meaningful, and excitement that you felt.
Yeah. I think some of the same stuff from elementary school, probably a little more amplified. Um, I know friend groups are a huge thing at that age, and I think I had a lot of experiences of kind of switching around to different friend groups. Again, just trying to maneuver through that. And then I think boys start to creep in quite a bit more. I'm sure I had little boyfriends and flings throughout junior high. So yeah, just a little more of the same, but a little more intense probably.
Yeah, it seems, at least in my experience, tell me about your experience. It seems as you go into junior high, even the school, at least back when we went, or I went, that they introduced you to some of the more intense parts of life. Like they started to have dances where you actually had to go slow dance with a boy at least once or twice if they asked you, or you were warned to stay out of a certain part of the campus or the schoolyard because bad things might happen there. And there were some fights, both cat fights and pretty violent men fights. There was some intensity that started showing up. Is that true for you? What was your junior high like in those big ways?
Yeah, I would say so. Junior high was also a really interesting time for me. It was a transition. My family made the move from the East Coast to the West Coast. And so that was a huge challenge for me. I left all of my friends behind and then had to kind of figure out where I fit in junior high in Utah when I moved there. So yeah, those were tougher years for me, I would say. And I think going back to the boys, even still in junior high, they're still at that age where like the teasing is a version of flirting. So I remember being frustrated with that and trying to, figure it out and be like, okay, are they just being mean? Do they like me? So I think those were some very formative years.
Did we, you? It's really interesting. You wiped the slate with your friends, and
Yeah.
you didn't. I wasn't. I didn't remember that you had moved from where you are in Pennsylvania right now. That you came back here out west, and
Hmm.
so to break in, there must have been some initial disappointment trying to get into the different cliques and groups. Remember any
Oh
of
yeah.
those?
Yeah, for sure. I think in junior high, like at that point, most friend groups are pretty set. They've all known each other since elementary school, and so coming in and being new was a struggle. And I remember like sitting in class being totally alone, like going for a whole class period, not talking to a single person. I would say sports became a big part of my life at that age, and that's really how I connected with friends and started to find a little place in the school, fit in a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, those are tough years probably for anybody, regardless of a move or not.
Yeah. Well, and I'd have a lot of assumptions about this. I won't give you a leading question. I'll just ask you the question. So you mentioned the boys, things are progressing a little more seriously, and you had a crush in junior high now, where it's a little more serious. Did you ever run into some excitement with a crush in junior high? Those new people,
Oh,
those new people.
for sure, for sure. Especially being the new girl, I felt like I did get a lot of attention from guys, but it also could make the girls jealous. So that's like a whole other dynamic. Because it's like this new girl that, everybody's looking at and trying to figure out where they fit in and who they're gonna hang out with, who they're gonna date. I'm trying to think of like specific examples of the drama, but I mean, I know there was drama, plenty of it.
Did you ever have a crush? The girls aren't loving you all the time when the boys are paying attention to the new girl, but you broke in a little bit sometime. But did you ever remember a time where there was disappointment, where you wanted to be friends with one of the groups and you just were not accepted because of that?
That's a good question. Um, Yeah, I'm sure there were times of that. I think I remember trying out a lot of different friend groups and just, trying to figure out where I fit in best. I had a group of friends that was, part of the volleyball team, but then I also had a group of friends that wasn't, and they always didn't always mesh together well. And so it was, who are you going to hang out with on Friday? Is it going to be this group or that group, or the guys or the girls or whatever? So yeah, a lot of that kind of figuring it out.
A lot of drama and the mixing of friend groups, that's for sure. The
Yeah.
different styles and interests and such.
Oh
How
yeah, and
about the
then
boys?
texting became a
Oh,
thing.
oh, tell me about that.
That was kind of big then too. I mean, most people had cell phones when I was in junior high, and so trying to figure out that too, and making sure people are included, leaving people out, all that kind of stuff. So yeah,
You're on the string or you're not. Yeah, that's the
yeah,
sadly I'm a little old for that, but yeah, I recognize that from my kids. You're on the
yeah,
string or you're not, and suddenly you're not, or you're there, you're accidentally on the string and they're saying some bad things, and that's a
yeah,
tough, yeah, that's a tough
yeah.
thing. How about the boys? Did you have it develop one of the crushes that wasn't the boy didn't pay attention to it and didn't respond as you hoped? Was there disappointment ever?
Oh, yeah. I mean, for sure. I, gosh, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I mean, there were times when, there's a friend that likes a certain boy, so you're not allowed to like them. They call dibs. So that could be upsetting for sure. And then vice versa, somebody trying to like swoop in and still the guy you're interested in. So yeah, plenty of that, I'm sure.
All right, let's go forward. Let me ask you, when we get to high school, we're studying and learning things, hopefully, in elementary, junior high, but when you start getting to high school, now the academics are layered on top of an even more intense version of some of those
Mhm.
personal issues like friends and activities and teams and boys and such. What was it like to try to layer in serious academic attention, or at least moderately serious attention
Yeah.
to school?
Yeah, I think I'd always been a pretty good student. School is important to me. I always wanted to go to college and get into a good school. And so I think that added pressure definitely elevates some of those social issues as well. There becomes a sense of competition in academics as well as sports because those are getting a little more serious too. But yeah, I mean, high school's a lot, and it's definitely a time to figure out like who you are, but also realizing, looking back now, I can realize that it's high school wasn't maybe as intense as I thought it was, but it seemed like it in the moment.
Feels like everything in the moment, doesn't it?
Oh
Life
yeah,
ends after that period when you're
I
there.
know. It doesn't keep
Those
going.
30 years olds, they're so old. It's too bad their life's over as I see them drive over to the university and I'm sitting here at high school. It's kind of like that, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So as you get to college, and now life really is serious because the grades affect your work, and you might be falling in love not with just a crush or your first, childhood love, but now the boys in what you're thinking about in that department is more serious, and also disappointment with jobs and things like that. I'm asking you all about all these things because the type of customer you're going to tell us about being really involves all these teenage and early adult feelings and
Yeah.
the connection with those. And so as an advertising expert now, who do you think her ideal customer was then and is now?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, you know, it's it's really interesting the brand that she has created for herself and the image that she has now. I mean, there's probably nobody on this planet that doesn't know the name Taylor Swift, at least in some regard. But her music is very individual to each person's experience, and I think that that's really what makes her so unique and what has made her into the person that she is, the brand that she is now. Um, her music is about personal experiences. It's very easy to relate to for the individual. And it's almost like she's connecting with you on a personal level through that music. Like we talked about all those experiences that I've had with guys throughout my youth, growing up, dating, all of that. There are songs that Taylor Swift sings that are very specific to those experiences. And growing up with her in my life and like her influence and all that music throughout each stage of her life as she developed and then also as I developed, it's almost like we grew up together.
Yeah, and tell me about the effect of those demo CDs with the 10 of you and the mom, and
Yeah.
you felt like you grew up with Taylor Swift, and then what happened to these casual kind of more acquaintance-like relationships in Scouts after that event?
Yeah. Yeah. So some of my very best friends came from that Girl Scout troop. And like I said, she gave us those CDs. And then when she came out with her very first album, that was like, I mean, we counted down the days until that album came out and we all went and got it. We like begged our moms to take us to the record store, to the CD store. I'm not that old, to go get those CDs. And I remember like as we drove to our soccer practices and to our Girl Scout events and troop activities, whatever, like we would just jam out to those songs in the car. And I mean, even when I listen to that very first album now, like I just connect those memories with those friends and with my friends' moms and driving in the car with my sisters. Like it was just such a big part of our lives and something that really connected us. So I feel like that's a really unique aspect of Taylor Swift's music and her personality and who she is that it creates that bond like between her fans, if that makes sense. So it's like a bond between her and between the fans. You feel some sort of connection.
Well said, well said. So I have to ask you about that demo CD. So when you got
Yeah.
that first album, were the songs on the demo CD on the first album?
No, they weren't. They're
Wow.
totally different songs. Like I said, I've never found them anywhere except for like maybe deep diving in YouTube. And then I've got them stored on my computer, so I have them. But yeah, they're not on her first CD.
And were they good?
Oh yeah, I mean I think so. Part of my
You're a
childhood.
Swiftie, so you think they're good.
I am
So
unashamed.
before you got the new album, were you guys driving around with soccer moms and dads with that demo CD, loving and singing together?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I'm sure I could ask any of those friends from that troop, like they would for sure all know still every word to those songs. Yeah, no doubt.
And you're in this tiny little club of hundreds of people that are the only ones that know those songs and the
Yeah.
words to them. So you really are a club, a community. And maybe back then in Pennsylvania, you were the fan club president of the Girl Scout troop.
Yeah. Probably one of the first Swifties. I can claim that.
That is so fun. Tell me about your transition to college before we finish this part of the interview.
Yeah.
Tell me about the pluses and the minuses and the hardships and the excitements as you shifted to college.
Yeah. Um, I think college is a really exciting time, and I really enjoyed my college experiences for the most part. They definitely came with their challenges, but I would say, and especially in Utah culture, when you're dating in college, it's a little more serious. It's a little more dating to, find an end goal type of thing instead of dating just for fun. So I think that changes significantly. And then yeah, I mean, you're trying to figure out I didn't go into college really knowing what I wanted to study. I had ideas, but I flopped around a whole bunch. Um, so I think that was a huge learning experience for me and trying to figure out, what I did want to do for work and what kind of area I wanted to be in, and then what education I needed for that, what major I needed to do. And then they also tell you that you have plenty of time to figure it out when, I learned really you don't have all the time in the world to figure out what you want to do. You kind of have to have a direction. So, yeah, it came with a lot more serious challenges. you think it's serious in high school, and then you look back and you're like, wow, high school was fun. So
Well,
yeah.
and you're right. I taught adjunct classes for years at the university level, and I would always ask. I taught entrepreneurship and leadership, and I would always ask the class at the beginning of the semester, how many of you know what you want to do professionally? And almost no one, out of a class of 60, and I have like three people raise their hand. And it was always so fascinating to me. There was no course or mentorship that was serious to help guide someone to even know how to think about that. In fact, I remember picking my marketing major before I went on to grad school. I picked that because I went to a 22-year-old counselor in the Career Center who said, "You'll make more money when you graduate in marketing than you will in finance. So why don't you switch to marketing?" I said, "Okay." You're exactly right. There's not as much time as people think, but there is also time to change later, but you can't just wait. You have to try and fail and try and fail, and that's how you figure it out. So
Yeah.
tell me about, did you ever have dates that you wanted to keep interest in and keep going out with, or did you ever fall in love with someone that you've experienced disappointment and it didn't work out as you wanted in college?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I dated a lot in college. And there were times when I went on dates and like it was a one and done for sure. There was a relationship I had where, I kind of knew it wasn't right, and so I ended it, but then I looked back and it was really hard still. And even though I was the one that ended it, it was hard when I watched them date somebody else. I felt jealous even though I knew that's not what I wanted. Um, yeah, I had a lot of dating experience in college, and it was fun, but a lot of it was hard. And it again becomes more serious the older you get. And so yeah, definitely lots of heartbreak, lots of excitement and fun, especially with new people, but yeah, lots of that.
Yeah, the stakes are higher, things are more intense, both positively
Yeah.
and negatively. Now,
Yeah.
if I'm not prying too much, tell me your husband's name and how you fell in love with him and met him, and how it felt when you realized you'd fallen in love with him.
Yeah. So my husband's name is Tyler Haws. Most people think that he's the basketball player from BYU. He is not. He's actually a volleyball player. But yeah, we reconnected in college, and funny enough, we actually went to the same junior high and high school. So it's funny you asking about my past like that. He was kind of sprinkled in there throughout all those times. We never dated in high school. We just knew each other. We were in friend groups that knew each other, kind of hung out every once in a while. But we definitely reconnected in college, and um, there, you know, it's it's funny to kind of think about that dating experience. And we had gone on one or two dates, and then we actually both ended up getting in relationships with other people. And then I had broken up with the guy I was dating, and I was like, why is Tyler still dating this girl? Like, I'm available now. Like, he should really break up with this other girl to date me. What's he doing? Um, and I remember like even as he was dating that girl, he would still talk to me. We would still play pickup volleyball together, so he was still a big part of my life. And then thankfully he did end up breaking up with that girl. And then we started dating, and yeah, I mean the rest is history.
Did you know immediately that reunited date you just said, "This is it, I'm in love," and
Actually, no. I I feel like I've always had trouble with commitment, and Tyler's the exact opposite. He like always had girlfriends and always long-term relationships. And so it was really interesting to kind of mix those experiences together, and thankfully he convinced me to marry him. But it did take me a while to kind of come around and realize that that was what I wanted. and he had all the qualities I was looking for. He's very loyal, and so yeah, it took me a while, but I came around.
Okay, I want to go forward just a little bit. And she made some promises to you in that conversation, I understand, where she said, I'm gonna hit it really big playing in stadiums someday, but first I've got to get to some smaller venues and soccer stadiums. And so she really worked. It took a long time to even fill up an auditorium, and then she kind of made
Yeah.
it to soccer stadium. And you had an experience with that. Tell us that story.
Yeah, so I think it was probably only a couple years after she had moved to Nashville and she'd gotten her record label, came out with that first album, and then again, yeah, it was probably a year or two later. And she announced that she was coming back to her hometown of Reading, Pennsylvania to do a show. And so it was in this like tiny little local theater. I think the tickets were maybe like $15 or something like that compared to, her like $1,500 tickets now. So yeah, my friends and I, we went with our moms and we went to dinner, dressed up, and we went to that very first Taylor Swift concert. Um, and it was like I remember what I was wearing. I remember like my friends and I spent hours like working on our eyeshadow that night before we went. Like it was a big deal. And then it's kind of funny at that concert, she sings a song. I believe it's the Teardrops on My Guitar song where she talks about Corey's eyes and they're really blue. Anyway, so Corey was a football player at our high school, and she had really liked him, and he did not reciprocate when they were in school together. And he actually showed up to the concert and he got booed right out of there. Like she played that song and everybody knew who he was, and he did not last long there. So kind of funny, but again, just showing that like personal experience that she brings into her music and how relatable that is to your individual experiences as a customer.
Yeah, it shows the thoughtfulness and the intention. She didn't accidentally show up at your scout meeting and talk to you individually and offer each of you an email and want to communicate
Yeah.
with each of you. She was very focused on your personal life and really drawing out those feelings and thoughts and experiences, because as she amassed many of those individual thoughts, they were not diluted, they were high def, so to speak, don't you think?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And then at that concert, when it was over, she said that she wanted to meet each of us individually and that she would wait there all night to talk to us if we wanted to. And so I remember we probably waited in line for maybe an hour or two. I don't know. I'm sure it felt longer because I was younger. Um, but yeah, she waited as long as everybody wanted to, and I think almost everybody that was at that concert waited in line to talk to her. And she took pictures with us, she signed whatever we wanted. I had her sign like my little velvet purse that I still have, and then I had her sign my arm. Should have gotten it tattooed thinking back. I don't know what I was thinking.
Did she seem to be personal with you that time and possibly remember you?
Yeah, yeah. I had mentioned that she came and sang to our Girl Scout troop, and I think she did remember us. I mean, it was a pretty intimate group from her hometown, so yeah, she definitely made it a personal experience. She was really sweet and fun, and just wanted to make sure that we knew that she was there for us, and she's always really been super appreciative of her fans. I think that's another draw to her, as a customer, is that she she shows this great appreciation for her fans, and she really gives us the credit, which I think like individually makes you feel like you have some power. So I think from a brand standpoint, from a consumer standpoint, I think that's really important.
Yeah. Uh, let me one of the stories that happened right after that, I'm pretty sure, is that she ended up in a 3,000 person soccer stadium and offered to sign and talk to anyone who wanted to line up and talk to her. And she didn't leave for 18 hours after that. and when I went and watched the movie in preparation for. I haven't been a Swiftie, but I'm getting there. But
Yeah.
I'm just fascinated by her business savvy and her effectiveness with human beings. And so when I went to this era movie, isn't that what it's called?
Yeah, the era
Yeah.
movies.
Like she
Yeah.
needs more advertising. But this era movie, I was fascinated at many things, but one in particular that relates to what we're talking about is, most bands or singers when they come to a city, they feel like they're customizing the spirit experience by saying, "Hello, Las Vegas," or "Hello, Los Angeles," or "Reading, Pennsylvania. How you doing?" And we all feel like, "Oh, it's our city. It's us." But she went beyond that. She did that. And then she also would go to all the parts of her stage and say you as though it were singular, and talk about an experience and set up the song and talk singularly to audience members in the stand. And I don't think that was an accident if she's going to wait 18 hours to talk to individuals after and ask them about their life and sign their things and exchange emails and social media handles with them. What do you think that's all about? Is it her really wanting to meet 18 hours of individuals, or is she just committed to her work and feels like it's really important to research and understand her audience? What are your thoughts on what's really your guess as to what's really going on in her head?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's probably a combination of both. I think she really sees the value in her fans, and I think she really does believe that the only reason she is where she is because of her fans. And so I think that she's one of those unique musicians that gives back in a way that's very personal. That not only like makes you want to continue to be a fan, but probably would get you to be a fan if you weren't. And so I don't think it's necessarily like some super strategic tactic, because like I said, she's always been that way. And I think it's helped her brand and helped her become who she is. But it's always been part of her. So it's not some like gimmick or scheme to, get more following. It's just always how she's been. And I think that that's a huge tribute to her success.
Yeah. I was fascinated when I went to that movie listening to the lyrics because I've never heard most of the songs.
Yeah.
And they were very much about what I was trying to pull out of you at the beginning of this conversation. I went into
Yeah.
this group, I felt like this, that boy this, he rejected me, I rejected him, schools this, all of it is about the young woman's life, it seems. Is that the lyrics, all of them, I think, by heart at this point. Am I off, or is that about right?
No, that's about right. Yeah. Yeah, I think that they're really easy to relate to. Like I said before, no matter who you are, you've had some of those experiences. Um, it's it's funny that she like really had her breakthrough in those more like angry songs at guys. And um I think it was really like unique for the time. I think it's become a little more common for people and musicians to kind of bash people in their songs, but it was really bold of her to do at the time. And I think that people recognized that and they were like, this is very honest, this is very real, like this is what I've experienced too. And so again, just very easy to relate to on a personal level.
Yeah, she just heard the Brene Brown vulnerable speech or something. I think that it's another thing that you said that I just want to highlight that's really interesting to me is that a lot of businesses or artists or whoever they may be that are trying to help others and get value in return, they want to build a community with them. But not only did she do that, obviously, but the means that she did is she created new friends for you, and that hyper conversation between each other as you go to soccer and other events and talk on the phone and such bonded you so much to each other and therefore her. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And again, like I said, Swifties are like a group. Although she does connect to each individual, um, the fact that like there are so many Taylor Swift fans and the fact that they have so much in common, it makes you really dive into that like fandom just a little bit more because there's this sense of community in it. And I think because she advertises and speaks directly to individuals, it gives you a sense of like it's there's more out there. Like people have experienced this just like I have, even though they feel like individual experiences. They're really pretty collective, and I think that human beings appreciate stuff like that. They want to know that they're not alone in what they're feeling and experiencing.
Well said. This is really a fun example of serving the one to get to the masses, to serve them
Yeah.
and understand them much, much deeper instead of going directly there first.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing with you. I want to ask you one last question just to end. How did this change you? Like, how do you think you pay attention to individuals that are even marginalized, or that you could lump into another set of group? Do you think you pay attention more to individuals because of your experience as a very, very early Swiftie?
Yeah, I mean, I I think so. I hope so. I think that's a really important part of relationships, an important part of um I mean, even from like a work standpoint, I work in advertising, so I think it is really important to focus on the individual customer. Like you said, that's how you're going to reach the masses is if you can make that connection to one person, it's going to spread and it's going to really drive your message home. And I mean, that's like the whole key to marketing and advertising right there.
Yeah, a lot of companies think like, well, we serve a lot of different people, we serve a variety, so I
Mhm.
can't focus on the ideal prospect who becomes our ideal client because I'll miss all those others. When actually, in our research, the contrary is true. To focus on the person that you would most help and that you can
Mhm.
most efficiently get to, that over time builds into hundreds and extends your ability to reach the masses with something that really, really matters and speak to you, like you said, that she spoke to you so personally and you could
Yeah,
relate to it.
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Appreciate you joining me, and I'll let you go now. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us to get leaders unstuck and thriving with their teams. You've heard a little bit about the power of bold encounters and leadership. Watch on, go to full episodes with the iconic expert interviews at markspencercook.com/podcast. And please subscribe. My site takes you directly to YouTube video and podcast versions. Please make comments, share this with your friends. Also, reach out to us to just brainstorm your priorities, challenges, events, or how bold encounters might help. Visit windfallpartners.com. Click the Let's Talk button without obligation and reach out. I look forward to speaking. Thank you for joining us. Now, let's lead with bold encounters today.